koutou e ngā iwi katoa e huri mai nei ki tēnei wā. Ki konei rā e te iwi, kua mutura ngā mihi, mau mai rā, tēnā rā koutou. Talo whalawa, malo elelei, Nisa Bula Vinaka, and I hope they win the sevens at the Olympics. Kia orana, whakalofalahi atu, it's just a little rock in the Pacific with nothing else on it. Talohani, ola kita, Maori ora. Mau mai rā, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā koutou. In Steve Joyce's address yesterday, he said there were two priorities. One of them was numeracy, but the other one was Māori and Pasifika. It's my privilege to introduce our plenary session, which is entitled Aiming for the Stars, our Pasifika heritage and future. Our two Pasifika presenters are both success stories from the television show Stars in Their Eyes. Shortly they will disappear behind the screen and change into their choice of star. Then they will come back and will amazingly look exactly as they are. New Zealand's got talent, but we've got everything in Pasifika. They are both experienced Pasifika educators, and they are crucial to the success of the He Taonga Waka project, which is a face-to-face workshop offered to the sector to help build the capacity of tutors and educators who are engaging with Māori and Pasifika learners. You may remember from yesterday the lovely Ria from Ako Aotearoa. She showed us a preview of a digital resource in the form of a digital flipbook. Here is a short clip again of a morning with the facilitators. There are heaps of Pasifika learners. Just look at some of us attending Pasifika Festival. So how do you get to know your learner? Well, this is how the Tertiary Education Commission defines a learner. And this is my Pasifika definition of a learner. Just as one family has Russian, Māori, Pasifika, English and Chinese heritage. You may know families just like this. And for the most part, we do want to learn.
It's like everything we've learned, everything you are, your culture is.
As it gives us a sense of belonging and identity.
It's different. Today it's different. Many of us then were island born, now most are born here. In the 70s, pretty much everyone attended church in a church building. Nowadays, Pasifika also do church in cafes and pubs. Each of our native languages used to be our first language. Today, with the high population of New Zealand born, English is more likely to be spoken. So plotting myself on the grid, I look like this. Island born, fluent in Samoan, I do church and cafes. Joining the dots, this is my shape. Then looking at a younger demographic, my 33-year-old son, he was born here in Aotearoa. Speaks a little Samoan, but attends church like his mum. Joining his dots, his shape looks quite different, but we're both seen as Samoan. Would you like to see more of that? Here's my home phone number. Our presenters this morning, people, is Bruce George. He has a Pasifika heritage from the Cook Islands. He spent a quarter of a century actively involved in adult education in that sector. He's also the Pasifika Projects Manager and Facilitator for the He Taonga Waka project, which of course is a project through Ako Aotearoa, Literacy Aotearoa and NZCR. Len, our other presenter, Matautia, that's a beautiful name, we'll get to talk about that later. His Pasifika heritage is New Zealand-born Samoan. Because of the tsunamis in the Pacific, Len has spent nearly a quarter of a century in the building industry. He is currently a carpenter tutor at Welltech and a facilitator as well for the He Taonga Waka project. We know that behind every good Pasifika male or men are women rolling their eyes. Someone has said, without the dark, we'd never see the stars. So here they are, they're both dark, and now we'll set our sails toward the stars. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bruce and Len.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Thanks very much, Pali. I didn't know you were the main speaker. Just a few acknowledgements before we start. The TEC for their support, Catherine and David, Ako Aotearoa and Literacy Aotearoa. Also the governance group, the working group that helped format our workshops and our content, and our facilitators who form our whānau in the Māori and Pasifika. So we have here May, Lisa, Marquini, Len, Pale and Ria. Good. So, yeah, I mean, without those people, we wouldn't be able to get all this together. So just a big acknowledgement for those. In terms of aiming for the stars, I think it was when He Taonga Waka was first put together, we talked about a Māori and Pasifika collaboration. And the things that came out was that we are two identities in ourselves, Māori being tangata whenua and Pasifika being visitors to this lovely country. So the waka you see behind it is a double hull representing Māori and Pasifika, and the reason was to emphasise the expertise and the adventurous nature that we had to colonise the Pacific, you know, and a small sailing ships and things like that. So that was sort of our guiding platform about who we are and what we're going to do and going ahead. So I've broken this up into the learner, you know, because this is about honouring the learner, and in adult literacy practice, you know, they're centre, so we must always be wary of that, and also take time to actually have a relationship and engagement with our learners as well. So we'll look at what our learner is about, we'll look at an educator and his point of view, and the last one is a theory geek. Sorry, I can't see my screen. Okay, and that's me. So I have to apologise now because I've left my 45-slide PowerPoint on hegemonic discourse of pedagogical and andragogical praxis towards hutagogy, okay? And I nearly fell asleep saying that, so... But I heard that Ben was offering some beds in his session, so maybe there. Also would like to thank Ben because he has done webinars on our flipbook as well. Just in terms of Pacific Way, that's the name of our workshop. The reason why is because we have a large population of young Pasifika coming through. And you can see the medium age there. And another poor fact is that, you know, we're at the bottom of the ladder in terms of a lot of statistics, literacy and all those other things. It's a shame it's not a coconut tree because we'd probably be right up the top. But that's not to be. Most of us, like Pali had mentioned, you know, is New Zealand born. We are amongst the poorest. In 2013, the average weekly wage for Pasifika was $287, less than the medium weekly wage. So, you know, from that point of view, there's a back step. And because we don't have many kids, that adds to the problem. Most of us speak English, yeah, and that's a problem too. So all these things is what a Pasifika person is about, and there's many different variations. So we've just got this one about a learner.
I found some work and a good boss that's willing to teach me, and so we're in a good place, and I'm willing to make it more work out for this guy, and he's going to do the same for me. So we're going to be working hard together, and I'm soaking it all in.
How'd you get the job, or how'd you go about getting the job? Did it just fall in the lap? Or?
No, I was at home, I was just desperate looking for work. I knew this little project at home of mine was going to run up soon, so during the holidays I just signed up with anything online, and it was funny enough through BCRTO, I just put my hand up for everything, and this lady rang me, she goes, "Oh, do you want to try?"
For letting me speak. What you saw was Lavinia HB. He was my student in 2012. Funny thing about that video is it's about 20 minutes long, and he only spoke for 5 minutes. The rest of it was me saying, you know, bro, can you hook me up with your aerials? Because he was a Sky installer, and it was just prompting all the time. Thing about Pasifika students, especially Lavinia, very shy, very sort of in the background and quiet. And after being in Pacific Trades Training, multi-Pacific Trades Training, he found his passion or his drive and his potential. Those words up there, like, you know, how he gave it all, grabbed the opportunity, he was the right person for the job. He was everything his employer, I said that he'd be, and his employer found that out. And the change from him when he started, great aerial guy, but from that to where he was at the end of the course is just a huge milestone. I wouldn't say that, you know, it was all my teaching. Well, it's part of my teaching, but, you know, just to unlock that door that Lavinia could go through, that was probably the key. That's what I discovered. As I said before, I teach Pacific Trades Training. These are my students. I call them Aing is a word in Samoan called family. They are students, they are numbers, I understand, but when you sort of go through you know, your course, you can't help but sort of get emotionally attached. It's all about sort of people at the end of the day. It's what you're trying to unlock potential, bringing them from, you know, where they've come from with all these sort of circumstances, and open up the world to them. But when I first started Pacific Trades Training, when it was given to me, it was like I've got a cohort of all Pacific Island students, and beforehand I think we had these scholarships, and they were scattered through the other courses, and we just find free education wasn't enough. So my boss said, "Hey, here's a good idea, we'll just put them all together and see what you do with it." So I had a big sort of hand in, as in, you know, I wanted it to be successful not only for the students but for being Pacific Islander. So when I first got there, and I just said to myself, you know, Len, educate yourself, okay? Get right into the building, you know, terminology side of it, because that's what they need. Okay, they need to be inundated with all this. This is a skillion roof detail. It's a cross-section of a skillion roof. It's out of the Brand's book. It gives you the components of a skillion roof and the rafter, the purlins, and all the bits and pieces, and ease, feet, lining, what have you, which is great. The only thing missing in it is probably roof fixing. And probably like you are now, you're probably looking at the screen exactly how they were looking back in 2012. So everything that I sort of put into it just went straight out the window. So I can't just keep, well, you know, this is how I was taught, as in I'm the person at the front, and I'm just going to give you all of this jargon that's going to go over your head, and then you're just going to nod continuously. As you nod continuously, you look to the person at the side of you, he's nodding, it's just confirming that we know that he doesn't know that we don't know. So we're just going to nod continuously. And it's quite contagious as you nod continuously, because everybody starts nodding, and I feel great as a teacher because I turn around and they're all nodding. And the thing that gives them confirmation that they know what they know is, as soon as they say, Tioni, all good? He just nods and goes, and I'm thinking, 2012 Teacher of the Year. It trips up when you go out on site and you build a simple structure and they have no idea what you're talking about. So, you know, the nodding continuously is, you know, let's just move on to the next slide, or whatever you're saying is just get out of my face type thing. I want to go back onto Facebook and slowly go back into my world. Cool. So yeah, that side of it, you know, quickly had to sort of find out, you know, this is not working for my students, or just what is it that we need? Oh, you know, how am I going to connect with my students? This is from the TEC, you're probably happy to know. It's, you know, their framework, Know the Lunar. So, you know, it's just before we sort of get into the jargon of, you know, this is a roof, this is a truss, this is a frame, I sort of need to know who am I dealing with, you know, before I sort of move forward. It's more, I think it's more of a holistic approach, you know, I'm dealing with the person as opposed to the contents. So before I can deal with the content, there's no way we can move forward unless I deal with the person. So, you know, who are we? Who have I got? I've got Pacific Island people. You know, they are passionate, they are driven, and it depends what, you know, if it's on the sporting field, you know, it can get physical. God first is in, you know, very religious people, and 80% of them, 80% of them are religious, 97% are affiliated with Christianity. Family orientated, you probably heard it before, we just got big families. And it's not just, you know, the people around us in our immediate family, it's the extended family. Shy, hard to make conversation. You almost, like that first slide we saw, 20 minutes of that conversation, 15 minutes was me prompting, how you going, what, you know, just to get 5 minutes of his answers. Limited eye contact, and that deals with tradition and culture. And quiet, which is misspelt, sorry about that. You're probably thinking, oh I'm a builder. I don't spell for a living. That's another issue. So, you know, that is, so now I know the learner, okay? Now I get to the part on, you know, knowing their demands, you know, family obligations, church obligation, financial responsibility, culture and tradition, financial responsibilities to deal with the first two, so, you know, where the money's going type thing, and then culture and tradition, it's honouring who we are as we come over from the islands. You know, we never forget it, they never let us forget it. Literacy, no, it's not in a bad way, it's not bad. Literacy issues and language barriers, you know, those are tied together. If you're, you know, the native tongue spoken in your household, more than English, and then it goes into literacy issues. I suppose if you put it all in a box, and you can probably think, you know, well, you know, lean, you know, family and church, that could be done in your own time. Financial responsibilities, we could probably get a financial advisor or a budget guy. Culture, tradition, you know, does it have a part in education today? You know, is it, you know, do you value it? You know, we understand and we acknowledge it, but it has no part in the education system. Literacy issues and language barriers, well, we can enrol you in a couple of ESOL courses for free. But, you know, if I look at it and to know what to do, and I had a whole lot, we're not going to change everything we've seen in the, that last slide, I can go backwards, you know, that's been going on for years since I was a kid, so we're not going to, it's no quick fix, there's no big pill for it, but I'm going to give you a tip today, because it's all part of the fee. This is the key to the front door. You know, you could dispute it, but this is after 4 years of teaching Pasifika people, I've learnt these 5 things. So before we sort of go in context, you know, I need to know that we got to build a relationship. I've got 20 people in the class. I will spend as much time to build the relationship, and I don't mean Facebook. Have we got to, you know, like me or accept me as a friend? That's not a relationship. Go back to old school when you actually talk to people to understand what you're about, you know. And this might mean that you might have to open yourself up, as in, you know, I've got 3 kids, yeah, they're sucking the life out of me, they're taking all my money. It just means that you're just real, you know, eh? And they're like, yeah, of course, hey, same thing, I've got 3 kids. And then there's that trust, and the trust factor is huge. If you don't get that trust factor, don't worry about everything else on the last slide, because you're not in the front door. I'm telling you, I'm going to give the keys to the front door. It's, with trust, there's 3 main drivers I found with trust. It's the ability. They'll question you, do you know what you, are you able to do what you say you can do? Cool. Benevolence, I know you'll have to Google it. Benevolence is about caring. Do you care about my future? Am I just another number to you? And integrity. Will you do what you say you're going to do? Okay, you cover all those off, then you'll get that trust and you'll receive that respect. Once you get that trust and respect, it's the key to the front door. You know, all of a sudden the world opens up to you. You're not just another number, you're not just another educator that we've gone through the same thing over and over. You're not listening to me because you haven't dealt with me. And, you know, if we want to seal the deal, well, let's just sit down and eat. Majority of the times we love food. Food is love. So when we sit down and have kai, you know, it's not just, oh, yeah, it's kai. It's actually time we sit down, we're all, forget about everything else, let's appreciate what's in front of us. Cool? Everybody loves a good meal. And then welcome to the family. Yeah? Then you're in the front door. Whatever you do after the front door, it's entirely up to you. There's some bright people in this room. You've got some great stuff for literacy and numeracy. I know you develop some you know, stuff for Pasifika people or Māori people, but if you can't get in the front door, it's no good. They won't accept it. So the unlocking that sort of key to the front door, like people like Lavinia, you know, it was just, I didn't do much, just those 5 things or 4 things, and that was the key to the world for him. Yeah, I think that's me.
So this is all the geeky stuff. So in terms of like going for the stars, you know, we had the waka, the navigation, and one of the things, you know, I sort of compared it to is us being educators and giving our learners literacy and numeracy skills, so, you know, they can choose their own pathways. And I mean, and that's the basic premise of our learners being critically literate, is that self-determination and tino rangatiratanga. So the thing that I'm really passionate about is that we've got our own, having our own voice. So we have our Pacific educators and theorists, Dr. Cherie Shu, Professor Damon Thalisa, and also Paulo Freire. I think he was a Cook Islander, but someone said he was Brazilian. But we'll take him. And the picture behind here is by an artist, Jim Viverari, who passed away a few years ago. And it's got coconuts think. So I thought that was quite a thing to have on that slide. I really like pictures, I just hate reading. So, you know, being a Pacific person, a lot of the time you don't see role models, or they're not present in today's world. They're sort of hidden. So, you know, as pioneers of navigating Moana Nui Akiva, the Pacific, outer space, to educators, politicians, scientists, professional athletes, artists, you know, role models that we can see a brown face and go, hey, that's us. We can do those sort of things. So one of the ones that I was quite inspired by was this island boy and 4 coconuts. It's not a joke. It's actually about this young boy who swam out of the Rarotonga atoll, and he tied 4 coconuts together and swam out. And his mother got worried because he'd been out quite a long time, so got one of the trading boats to bring him back in. And when he came back in on the boat, he said, actually, that's a better way to travel. So he learned something. And that's only 4 coconuts. He was the first graduate from university, from the Cook Islands, and first doctor in 1945. And he became the first medical officer in the Cook Islands. But that was after applying 3 times. So the Cook Islands is sort of run under the mantle of New Zealand, and it gets a lot of funding. So there's always been a lot of pressure in terms of our education system in New Zealand has been replicated in the Cook Islands and around the Pacific. So my parents, you know, were punished for speaking te reo in the school systems, similar with Māori over here. So lots of similarities and things like that. So this person is known as Papa Tom, Sir Tom Davis. He was a Harvard University graduate. He actually first studied and got his, became a doctor down in Otago University, and he was doing research about body temperatures with surfers. So surfers would be doing their thing in the middle of winter, and he would be taking body temperatures, and he would offer cups of tea and sandwiches to these surfers, okay? And he would measure body temperature not by inserting something into the mouth, I won't mention where, okay? But NASA found it very valuable and got hold of him, and so he worked for NASA in the 1950s. And he actually wrote an article about that, you know, humans will be travelling around in space, and they actually told him to take it down, but he refused. So that was in the early or mid-1950s. So for me, he seemed like he had quite a lot of vision. He became Prime Minister of the Cook Islands, and then after retiring, he decided to build a voca in his backyard. And he started reigniting traditional sailing back in the Cook Islands. And so from a boy paddling out or swimming out with coconuts to building his awaka and bringing back traditional ties, you know, because sometimes in our society, our traditions tend to be thought of too old school, you know, we need to be brought back in the modern times. But for us, you know, our cultural and our background and our history is very important to us because it gives us directions about what we can do. And if we don't have role models and we don't see those sort of people around us and we're not informed about them, then we don't see the stars and we can't aim for our dreams. Okay, so adult literacy, theory, practice, what does this mean for Pacific learners? And a lot of this is really, you already know. So Paulo Freire, the dialogical problem posing pedagogy that he supported, being student-centred and using the student's own language and culture. You know, if that can be incorporated into a curriculum or they can see it around them in the learning environment, it reinforces, you know, that they are who they are and be proud of it, rather than being silent at the back. And like Len was saying, is like, you know, our cultural values, we're shy, we sit back, we nod our heads. Sometimes it's because we're falling asleep, but other times it's just, you know, acknowledging what's been taught to us. But when we're asked the question, we're always the last ones to answer. That's because we're a bit dumb and slow. But it is because, you know, it's in our culture that we let people go first, you know. So because we don't say anything doesn't mean we don't want to say anything, you know. And sometimes that silent means a lot. Probably means a lot of disagreement, you know. So you'll see them smiling and going, that's a load of crap, yeah, yeah. But we won't say that because an educator is held at high esteem, like ministers and things like that, and elders. So in a learning situation, it can be quite hard where we're showing respect, but we don't want to be critical. And I'm coming here saying, we need our learners to be critical. So, you know, it's a hard one when you get that balance, and it's not just for Pasifika, it's for lots of learners. That prior knowledge, you know, building on new knowledge and what the students needs in their world. So part of getting to know that is you have to get to know your learner. And that's that term about relationship. And what Len was saying, you know, is getting to know them outside the classroom, because there's a lot of things that happen out there. So in terms of teaching and learning relationship, Dr. Sri Chu, I like learning especially if the lecturer who is passionate and connects with students. When I first went to university many years ago in Auckland, I was one of like 300 sitting in the lecture theatre, and it wasn't engaging. I could hear a small person down there talking away, writing on they didn't have the whiteboards as blackboards back then. You know, and once again, totally disengaged. The only time I engaged was a tutorial where we only had 12 people. So, you know, those things don't sort of relate to us as learners. But if you've got a lecturer who cares about you and your learning, you know, to find out why you were away or why are you failing, all those sort of questions, rather than just ticking a box or crossing a box. So there's more in terms of the learning relationship that you have to take a bit more time to do, rather than, you know, a 10-minute intro. If you spend more time, you'll get tenfold back, because as Pasifika, we're very loyal for people who care about us and things like that. So just be strategic, you know, so choose a builder, mechanic, electrician, a doctor. So appreciative pedagogy, what Dr. Sri Chu talked about, understanding the learner's context, internal motivation, so why are they on this course, you know, and what are their motivations, and like that learner, he was saying it's about, you know, what you can do for your family, and that was really important. Also external motivations and things like that, and, you know, actually that's the family one. Internal is probably more about getting a qualification so they can support the family. And also was mentioned about we're very religious, and so spending time at the church and things like that, pretty similar to Māoris going to marae. The church becomes a place where we can connect, we do learning, we preach and all those sort of things. So in some cases, you know, some of our learners will be going to church like 7 days a week. You know, so there are other commitments, and it's not that they don't value education and religion and family are above that. It's sometimes you have to make the choice. So starting with what works well with the learners' lives, so, you know, finding out what's happening in their lives. The pictures behind you, those are my parents. So they came here in the 1940s. And the picture on the other side, some few years later, with nine children, 21 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren. So we have, just in my mother and father's side, we've got Scottish, German, French, Marquesian, and my mum's from Rarotonga and my dad's from Atu. So, you know, we've already got a mixture here, and so when we intermarry, we've got Pommies, Aussies, yeah, they get heaps, Vietnamese, and just a whole range of things. But they're all got Pacific blood inside of them, and so that's the thing, is like if something happens, and there was just a half a gathering of my family, there's only about 40 of them. If something happens to one of them in there, there's 40 people there. So those are the things that are a little bit different to Pasifika. And, you know, when a learner goes missing, there's usually good reasons why, you know, and sometimes just too shy to say why they are going and things like that, because once again, they don't want to disrespect the teacher and all those sort of things. So one of the things is finding out a bit more from your learner, and like I said, it comes back tenfold. So that extra bit of emphasis does help. So in terms of, you know, providing a positive learning environment, acknowledge cultural histories, stories, so that can be put into the curriculum. And that's not hard. It's just doing a little bit of research. And like I said, there's lots of information out there, lots of role models, and lots of things to be proud of in terms of Pacific Islanders. And also taking them from being participants, from spectators to participants, getting them involved. And you have to get over that shyness. You have to start having a relationship in terms of engaging them. And once that happens, you'll find that, the environment for them and for you would be much better. Mentoring learners, I think that should be standard for any learners. And a use of humour, for some reason we like a good laugh, maybe because we're at the bottom, but we can call each other coconuts, but you can't. All those sort of things. Be friendly, and we're very welcoming and supportive. So those are the things, if that can be encompasses. And to be honest, it's just treating people like human beings and the way you would like to be treated. We all come with some cultural baggage, getting to know your learner and the baggage they bring. Sometimes you've got to share a bit of your own baggage, which is part of an adult learning environment. But like I said, if you can do that, then you've got a learner. And also, the thing is, that learner becomes more proactive in their learning. And as an educator, I think that's what we want to do. Okay, democratic learning environment, giving the learner self-confidence. And this is where the educator sometimes has to take a step outside of their safety zone and comfort zone. Bicultural affirming pedagogy. Māori and Pacific learners pretty much live in a bicultural world. For Pasifika, our home life is Pasifika. When we go to work and learning, it becomes more a Pākehā world. So we jump from one to the other quite easily. And I think if, as an educator, and you're working with Māori and Pacific, you need to be able to do that too. It is scary at first, but you will get lots of acknowledgement for trying. High expectations to be met. For a lot of our learners, our teachers don't have high expectations. A C pass is good, so they teach at that level. And I think as educators we should have high expectations for all our learners and give them all that opportunity so they can aim for the stars and paddle out on 4 coconuts. Whatever they want to do, that's what part of their dream is. And also the learner's well-being. For Pasifika, it is connected to the whānau, And like, you've seen our pictures, we have large whānau, so when something happens to that member, it affects all of us. And I think that's like any family, it does affect our learning, and in those cases you need to give time for that learner, either to get over it, and time to come back and support them, and all those sort of things. So for me, the main point is about relationships, between you and the learner, and it should be at an equal thing rather than the learner, or the tutor being up here and the learner here, because you've already got Pasifika thinking like that, so to engage them better will bring down to a level where you can learn from your learners, these are adults, and maybe get a bit of cultural background and cultural knowledge from them. But if you can do this, I think it's a good way for empowering learners, and I think in terms of education, that's where we want to head towards. And that's us. Do we have any questions? No?
Kia ora. Feedback on people that have participated so far. What sort of things you've been hearing?
Say that again?
People? What sort of feedback from people that have participated in the Hatonga Waka workshop so far?
Oh, totally awesome. I write them all myself now, sorry. Sorry about that, Catherine. No, we've been getting really good positive feedback. Last year we were delivering full-day workshops, Māori and Pacific. This year we've had options because we know how hard it is for people to get PD, so we do a combined full day, Māori and Pacific for one day, if you can't have that option. But, you know, it has been good because we're telling our stories and people are relating to it and just acknowledging the slight differences, you know. I think, you know, as an adult literacy educator, we should be working like that with all our learners. But we tend to be very monocultural in our stance, and as a teacher, it makes it easier than encompassing, you know, like Pacific, you know, 17, 18 Pacific nations, you know, and we're not all Samoans. And we don't all have Fijians on the wings in our rugby teams. But, you know, we are Pasifika, so, yeah, thanks, Ben.
Just an observation, really. I'm totally on the same page as probably everybody else is in this room with what you're saying. But as a Pākehā woman dealing with a lot of Pasifika people in the meat industry, I found that trying to find that point of familiarity was sometimes quite difficult. What I found was talking about numeracy with Pasifika people, the moment that I said I was an insulin-dependent diabetic, and that the understanding of that disease involved a whole heap of numeracy, and started to open up about that. The attention, it was lovely, actually, and it was a really lovely group of people to work with. So, yeah, I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, thanks, and I think it's, like you're saying, it's that extra step you need to take.
Yeah, and open yourself up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, everyone. Enjoy the rest.
Another song.
You'll have to come to the next workshop at 1:15. No, 2 o'clock. Thank you, Bruce and Len, for the reminder that Ainga is at the real foundation for accessing that front door. I just wanted to acknowledge in this room there's a number of other Pasifika people who are knowledgeable in the stuff that we do in terms of engaging Pacific families. And those people are, you know, they're here, they're just amongst us. And sometimes we sort of feel that the answers may come from the few at the front or something on a digital book or in a library, but often they're amongst us. It's just a matter of being aware of who they are and what they're doing, and they offer a lot of wisdom and experience in engaging with Pacific, which I felt today the boys did as well, was to remind us that Ainga is at the foundation of everything that we do. Māori call it whānau, but in Pasifika, whānau for us is a word, but it's actually little children, like tamariki is for Māori. So if you're working with Pacific, you could say for Māori it's whānau, but for Pasifika it's Ainga, or Kāinga if you're Cook Island, or some of the other languages like Tonga, they use mangawhaoa, or Niue, they'll use some of their own words around that one word, whānau. So Ainga is a good one because it's Samoan. And you won't be ostracised for saying that. There's a reminder today about the skillion roof details. I don't know how you felt, but when I saw that, I just about had a heart attack. Because it reminded me of my high school days too, and of course most of our learning we've kind of springboarded into this century now, as you can see with some of the boys' work, and New Zealand born are much more where this sector has to pitch a lot of our new pedagogies of learning. Thank you, boys, for the reminder that our obligations in terms of Pasifika cultures are still very important, the church ones, the family ones, and whilst we've seen this a million times in the last 10 years, some of us still don't subscribe to that as being a strategy for engagement. It's like, it's so simple, we leave it out. Thank you, boys, for the reminder that it's what kind of relationship we're building with Pasifika families. Really important word there. to be kind. No, what kind of relationship we're building with Pasifika families, because they are for a long, long time. Towards the end there we had a reminder about the appreciative inquiry, because I think that's common for all learners. And in Pasifika, because some of the stuff that the boys have talked about, the family stuff, the social stuff that's hidden, you know, some of our students are just longing for an opportunity to be loved. And of course, talking about some things in Pasifika are the same as every other learner, but there's one or two things, as were pointed out today. Thank you for the reminder, that make us truly Pacific. And I think it makes me proud to be here. And these two young boys, they were exactly what they said that we are, shy. Look at them, you know, just a little bit saying less. But yeah, on the rugby field, these two are just dynamite. So thank you, you two again, and on behalf of us, thanks for representing Pasifika again today. Big warm welcome.
Thank you, and can I just say next on the program is the third series of concurrent sessions, so if you can just